And we are live to talk about Transformers: Rise of the Beasts. This movie kind of snuck up on me. I did not expect in early June here to find the movie that will probably ultimately go down as being maybe my favorite bad movie of the year. Now, that's not to be an insult to anyone out there who really loves these new iterations of Transformers movies. Lord knows there is always a fan base for every type of movie. And honestly, I think that's pretty fucking great. If you love Transformers, let me know. If you love the classic Transformers, I'll be honest. Transformers kind of missed me as far as like being something I was super into. I have an older brother who was a little into Transformers, not like super into Transformers, but it was a part of his whole thing growing up. And as far as the Michael Bay movies, I mean, I saw the first two kind of hit me in high school there, but then kind of faded out from the rest of them. And I'll be honest, I had not seen a Transformers movie until this here Rise of the Beast. So let's go ahead and, if you have a drink in hand, go ahead, take that drink and just kind of buckle in as we just kind of go over this movie. I had a lot of fun watching this movie. It's always good to go see a movie with like a buddy or something like that. I had that fortunate enough experience go and see this movie with a friend of mine, and it was just kind of entertaining all around. I will say this. This movie was packed. I'm talking about it on Thursday night. We went and saw it at 6:30 here, pretty major city here in North America, Philadelphia. So you figure that that's a pretty decent showing for this movie. I don't think it's going to knock down walls or anything like that. I honestly don't even think it would edge out Spider Verse, but it might surprise some people. I honestly think with the amount of money it's going to make. One thing right off the bat I can give this movie is it's just fun. It's the reason I started this by saying it might be ultimately we'll see. There's still a lot of year left. We're about halfway through now, but still maybe my favorite bad movie of the year because I'll be honest, at the end of the day, this movie is kind of awful in all the best ways. It's really schlocky. It doesn't hit you in the face with just the kind of shit that you can imagine everybody's complaining about. It doesn't hit you with any of that. So you can kind of roll into it knowing that you're just going to have a really big, dumb, depending on how much you're willing to let yourself, fun time. So I say that depending on how much you're willing to let yourself, because you definitely have to kind of just ease back and let this movie wash over you. Now, from what I can remember, neither of the first two I saw Transformers 1 and 2, neither of them were very smart, and it's been a really long time since I saw them, but I feel like the plot was simple enough, that you didn't even have to think about it too hard. It's like, okay, uh, there's the Allspark. I remember it was called the Allspark. The Allsparks on Earth. The Autobots have to. I forget if they had to either like find it first or like protect. They probably had to find it, right? It was in the glasses. Oh, it's all coming back to me now. But they had to find it before whatever. They had to find it before the bad guys. They're fighting over it. Big battle at the end over the Allspark. Ultimately, this movie, it's like okay, basically it's simpler. Big giant monster Omnibot. No, Unicron, man. Oh man, Unicron. Again, I'm not like a Transformers guy, so I'm gonna have to be kind of referring to my notes here as far as their name. By notes, I mean the tabs. As far as the names of the characters in this, but Unicron, you got him as your big, generic bad guy floating in the sky who eats planets, and basically he's got an army of people that want to feed him planets, and you've got the Autobots and the animal. Autobots ready to protect everything, which I feel a little bit shameful not being able to remember their names, because the whole thing that drew me into this movie is that I watched Beast Wars when I was a kid. I had a lot of those Beast War toys actually, up until like about 10 years ago when I sold them all. They sold for pretty well actually, and they weren't in the best of conditions. They were played with heavily, but I really love the shit out of that show. All the crappy computer animated drawbacks of it could not stop me from just enjoying the fuck out of it when I was a kid. So yeah, man, I was a big Beast Wars guy going into this, and I was really genuinely curious to see how they would get done. But whatever, I can't remember the names of the animal Autobots. Maybe someone can let me know in the comments below or something like that. I don't know, but ultimately, you have the animal Autobots and the regular Autobots coming together to protect the planet from this device. And there's a few nuances in there too. So really, on that note, this movie was like relatively enjoyable as far as there's plenty of moments, again, like so bad it's good that like there's plenty of moments where you'll just be like what the hell am I watching here, man? Or like genuine like logical like what like things. And maybe also too a little bit of like editing in scenes where one thing's going on and then all of a sudden another thing's going on and you're like, wait a minute, when did we get there? So you can imagine there's like a lot of like fuckery going on with the whole thing. So you sort of have to like wade through it a little bit here. But I enjoyed it ultimately. Again, it just because it's not that good of a movie. Again, like I know I was in some ways slamming Across the Spider Verse. That's a much better movie than than this movie was. Okay, but this movie was fun, and maybe sometimes comes down to like your bar is low, your expectations are low. Uh, at the end of the day, fun is fun. And the thing that I think was most enjoyable about this movie is that it just totally leaned into just how freaking stupid it was. Like, all right, start from the top. So you've got the animal Autobots defending their animal planet from Unicron, and Unicron again is trying to eat planets, and his main dude is Peter Dinklage, play Scourge, who is played by Peter Dinklage. The thing that's also worth mentioning about this movie is that although I'm looking at a very high build. They spent a decent chunk of money, I'm sure, on some of the voice acting for this movie. You got Ron Perlman over here. Oh man, Pete Davidson, Peter Cullen, Optimus Prime. Yeah, I mean, they were spending a little bit of money here, and Peter Dinklage as Scourge, Michelle Yeoh. She was pretty cool character. But the point is, I would not know who any of them were. I wasn't looking at this list with their pictures and their names on it, because everything in this movie was like hidden under the robot voice of all of the characters. And the way Peter Dinklage's Scourge was done, you just like can't help but just think of Ultron in every single scene that he's doing. You're like, man, this is exactly like Ultron, same vibes. I'm feeling a heavy Ultron thing going on with this. Unfortunately, Pete Davidson is really the most noticeable character in this whole thing. Pete Davidson's voice really comes through, and maybe that's just a credit to how unbelievably unique his style and voice is. But maybe he also was like, nah, I don't want you to hide my voice too much, but I'll do the role because he's a pretty big character in this, and he has a lot going on in this movie as Mirage. So if you're a big Mirage fan from the cartoons, like again, I'm not that familiar with them, but I can only imagine that if you love that character, you're not gonna like. Uh, I'm completely speaking out of my ass here. You're not gonna like Pete Davidson doing the voice as him. You might enjoy the portrayal. I don't know. I mean, I'll say this: the character, the CGI character was fun. He has a lot of cool powers, obviously. Mirage, he does illusion things. He makes like multiples of himself. He uses that in fight scenes and chase sequences and stuff. Well, what's not to like about that? Well, I'll tell you, it's Pete Davidson. But if there's one thing that I do really love in a movie, just like the Suicide Squad, it's Pete Davidson being multiple times, and just going out. Spoiler alert. In case you didn't know, if you're actually taking the time to watch this damn thing or listen to it, let's be honest, there's not a whole lot that you'd be watching, but we can fix that just a little bit. We can add some action scenes here for you. Uh, if you're here expecting no spoilers, and I do apologize because they are a coming. So yeah, man, you have a little bit of fuckery in the sale of this movie as far as kind of pitching you. Oh, of course they have to do it like the whole. Oh, the good guys are good. It's sort of, I guess, avengering it, right? Like, oh, the good guys are gonna fight, and then they're gonna realize they're on the same side and team up. That's very evident in this picture that we have here of Optimus Primal, who I will say, and I don't throw this word around lately. I never use this, as a joke. Optimus Primal is very beta in this movie. Spends the whole movie just kind of going, yes, other Prime who is bigger and more important than me. And they make him look big in this image, but he is not as tall as either of the other primes in this movie. So that was a little disappointing too. Again, I grew up in the era of Beast Wars was big. You had Cheetor and Optimus Primal. Was that his name in Beast Wars? By the way, I thought I thought they just all called him Optimus, and I feel like his name was just Optimus Prime. They probably called him Optimus Primal in this movie to like avoid confusion or something like that. Because let's be honest, he's just like a reskinned version of the character. But yeah, man, I love Beast Wars, and that's why I got two of my favorite characters in it right here as my icon, just getting all lovey dovey in the name of June. Everybody, yeah, man. So where were we with that? But let's move on into the plot, if we will. So this movie takes place in the 90s. You know that because there's like a Wu-Tang poster on the wall in the very beginning, and they're playing Wu-Tang, and Tupac's on the TV, and he's messing with old electronic. It's very analog. The beginning of this movie, they need you to know that it's the 90s. And while normally, you think like not to pick on it or anything, but you think of Captain Marvel or what's another one too? Recently, there was another one that I saw that was like, why is this taking place in the 90s? Not 100% necessary. I guess you could kind of make the same argument I'm about to make for Rise of the Beast that you could for Captain Marvel. So just drop it. Rise of the Beast takes place in the 90s because it has to, right? We got Transformers in the mid to late aughts, right? When did the first Transformers movie come out? That actually is not going to be too hard to look up. Transformers, the robots, you know, the robots. Rise of the Beast again coming right up, so they're definitely putting at least a little bit of money into that marketing. Okay, 2007. Yeah, man. So, I mean, that's 15 years ago, man. So yeah, you've got the Transformers, obviously 2007. You got to put this thing sometime before that. And again, I didn't see Bumblebee, but I assume that took place in the 80s. So it's like logically you're going to move this thing up into the 90s. It's very, very obvious that the movie is taking place in the 90s. You've got your main protagonist, that's Noah Diaz, and he is kind of in charge of taking care of his brother Chris Diaz, who is like the cute little sidekick kid, but he's like literally barely in this thing. They got the single mom. You can imagine they live in New York. Things are tough. It's he's working hard. He's trying really hard to get a security job. This guy like Noah's down on his luck because he was in the army, but he wasn't doing so well. His brother's got sickle cell anemia. Hey, pour one out. Not anywhere that you wouldn't want to normally pour it out, but pour one out to the sickle cell, and you know respect there, because it's a real disease, and yeah, for real, serious. And this kid's got it, and in addition to looking for a job, Noah is got to take his brother to the hospital. They don't accept his brother though, because he's behind on the hospital bills. We've all been there. Go to a different hospital, rack up a different bill. Surely they can't make you pay that if you're actually this poor. He ends up going to his other security job, and because his record in the army is so bad, they don't even let him interview. And that's, you'll notice if you go to see this movie, that's a big thing. There's like a very clear message of like, man, you just can't give Noah a chance, Kenya, And on that note, Elena's in the same boat. uh, but we'll get to Elena soon. She's the second protagonist, so we'll get to her in just a little bit, actually. So, in addition to Noah and Elena being there, what you also end up having is okay. Backtrack just just a little bit. So you got Noah. He's got to take his brother to doctor appointment. They don't accept him because they are so behind on their bills. He ends up going to his interview, and this is kind of a funny thing where he's like, oh, he tells his brother like, oh, sit here, wait, I've got to go do the interview. And of course, like, they don't even accept him for the interview, so it doesn't go well. But you figure like, oh, surely there's gonna be some kind of scene where like he loses his brother, or like there's some kind of misunderstanding or panic or something like that. Just nothing. And maybe they cut that down because I I sometimes it's hard for me to criticize like thoughtless movies. Maybe you got them if it's legal in your state, because we are on the show. Sometimes it's hard for me to criticize movies that are just kind of dumb blockbuster summer fun like this and keep it right at 2 hours, which this movie is. Like, I'm looking at it, says 2:16, and it might have been, and maybe it did kind of feel that way, especially a little bit at the end. So you know what? I thought it was 2 hours. So to its credit, it didn't feel like it was over 2 hours. I really was about to give it credit for saying it was 2 hours, but then I'm looking at the runtime here in 2:16. I'm thinking like they cut things out, but yeah, so like his brother's just there and nothing gets done about it. The movie's 2 hours and 15 minutes, so I'm not really going to give them an excuse for that on second thought. You can imagine though. So, he's got the sickle cell anemia disease, and his older brother's looking out for him. And I like there. Okay, that's another thing about this movie. It doesn't try that hard, which is good and bad in some ways. It doesn't try that hard to like bullshit you or waste your time with any explanation, but also doesn't try that hard to explain like simple things. Like, um, for the sake like They got here's the connect, here's the thread line. Across the Spider Verse and Transformers: Rise of the Beasts both have the same mom in them. How about that? They both have Lauren Velez playing the mom of the main male protagonist, and I will die on the hill that Into the Spider Verse, as opposed, or sorry, across. I'm not the only one getting those confused. Across the Spider Verse, as opposed to Into the Spider Verse, is like a dual protagonist movie. You have a Gwen and a Miles story going on in that movie. The same way, this movie does a pretty deft job of balancing the Noah Elena story. So Noah's not having any luck with his job. He decides to turn to stealing cars with his buddy Reek. And I actually have a picture of Reek here. So let's go ahead and pull that up. So Reek is, convincing him to go ahead, steal a car. Classic Transformers trope. One down, three to go. We're a couple deeper than that, but classic Transformers trope. The car is a Transformer. It's Pete Davidson. Thing is, right as Pete Davidson is, getting the call from Optimus Prime that they need to assemble, he's trying to steal him. So, backtracking to the very beginning of this movie, which I forgot to tell you about, you have the animal Autobots escaping with the Allspark in this movie. It's like a portal, man. It's like a portal gun. It opens up a portal across the universe. So they're escaping with it from the main bad guy, uh, from Unicron, but of course Scourge is the one like pursuing them because that's like his henchman and stuff like that. So they're fleeing Scourge, they're fleeing Omicron, and the like OG Optimus, who's like also a gorilla, stays behind, and he gets killed immediately by Scourge. But the thing is they escape with the portal gun thingy, and that means that for some reason the Unicron will have to stay in that particular part of space that he is in, and that was one thing I was like, okay, like I guess he's so big, he's stuck there. Like they need that device, but you always, again, good thing. It's tough, That's why we're talking about it. That's why we're rambling about it on stream because we can get rid of this image. We were familiar with Reek now. We're rambling about it because you can't be too critical of the movie for not harping too hard on the details. But you always got to wonder with movies like this, like, okay, the MacGuffin, like, can they not make another one? Is the issue that it's special? It's like religious in some way to the Autobots or to the machine people that they have to. You have these machine people that, despite the fact they're from an entirely different planet, they look like Earth animals. I mean that alone is pretty interesting, but it never goes explored. That's the kind of thing where you go, I maybe would like a little bit of an explanation for how a gorilla ends up on an alien planet that got eaten by a whole other alien mechanical entity before he even came to Earth. Like, what the hell is going on there? And that's what I mean by like, if you're like really gonna go see this movie and think about it, or like, kind of like have any kind of brainwave while you're watching it, other than like, this is stupid and I love it and I'm just gonna embrace it for what it is. I think you are gonna really enjoy it just for how bad and absolutely dumb that it ultimately ends up being. All right, give me a second here to secure my second beer. They're right next to me, so there's no like traveling to get them. put it in the koozie, and keep it going. So that's the whole opening sequence. The Autobots, the oh, I think they're called the Maximals or something like that. I'm gonna call them the Maximals for the rest of this. So that's what we're gonna accept it as for now. They're the Maximals. So Maximals escape to Earth, I guess, and then you get to present day where there's sickle cell anemia, where you have the Transformers hiding out as per usual, doing their. I mean, they got to do their thing until Sam Witwicky ends up finding them. Sam Witwicky, you are the one. Has the dude who's played Optimus Prime been Optimus Prime this whole time? If so, man, I guarantee you that dude has cash some poker checks. Pa-ching, pa-ching. You got it. All right. Uh, yeah, man. So he steals his car. He ends up getting roped into the Autobots. Obviously, Optimus is not very happy about a human getting pulled into Beast War slash Transformers disputes. And while all this is happening, you can imagine they intercut the scenes with Elena. So she is working as an archaeologist, scientist, person of some sort. Again, movie never super specific about like anyone or like what their experience or role in things is. They just let themselves go for it, honestly. So she's working in the museum. She's like cleaning off stuff. She's in that whole role that you can expect for a protagonist in a movie of like she's underappreciated, nobody's paying attention to her. It's not too bad there, but we'll take that away regardless. And she's in that role where she's underappreciated. She's the smartest person in the room. You can tell that because they bring in this artifact that ends up being one half of this teleporter device. They bring it in. They're like, we think it's this from this community. She's like, no, it can't be that because those communities didn't interact until 600 years later. If you're saying it really is as old as it is. And of course, they dismiss her, so she goes does her own studying, ends up uncovering half of this device, and that, of course, attracts the Terracons. I can remember the bad guys' names in this movie, the Terracons, because they were so fucking lame. Like okay, I will say the one thing that does hold this movie back from being my favorite bad movie of the year and why Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey could edge it out is they don't commit at all to the bad guys, the Terracons. So you're selling this movie right on the whole, like, oh, we're doing a little bit of, you remember Beast Wars? Maybe you're the kind of my age group who grew up with that. So you're just going to come see it just out of a little bit of morbid curiosity. You want to see these characters. You want to see some of them come back. You want to see who's going to pop in. And you don't do anything with the bad guys. There's not a T-Rex. There's no Raptor. Arguably 90% of the fan base's favorite character. Not even Waspinator. I literally pulled up a few of them just to be like, yeah, that Maximal. Okay, so Maximal was the name of the gorilla in it. Oh no, Optimus Primal. There you go. Is Maximal the ape that all right. Well, that's sorry. Okay, I'm getting myself a little distracted with Beast Wars right now. So yeah, man. His name is Optimus Primal, man. Dinobot, the Velociraptor. I don't know why you don't have Waspinator in this. And Rat Trap, dude. Like, how did we miss out on Rat Trap? I guess there's always room in the sequel. It's good to see Cheetor, but let's pull up Cheetor for a second here again. Cheetor is very underserved in this movie. Like, look at this scene. You would think that Cheetor is in this movie and very significant. I'll be honest, I don't know if this image is just like a promo thing or like a real still that somebody grabbed, but boy does that look like total shit. And that's another, I mean, it almost at times the CGI across this movie looks so bad that you kind of wonder like why didn't you just do it with the Beast Wars animation? And on that note, you just go really violent with it, where like all the explosions and stuff, like you have like me and my buddy were kind of like chuckling because okay, there's a moment where this moves us forward with the plot. So he goes to steal the car. They realize that they've got this human roped into it. Well, the good news is the human can sneak into the museum and steal the half of the teleporter device that they need to get from Elena. Who they don't know Elena yet, but they know where it is. So it's sending off a beacon that only machine people can see. Humans can't see the frequency. All right, have a drink. And so he ends up breaking into there and trying to steal the device when they run into each other. And that's again, there's like they have the whole she like attacks him because he's trying to rob the device. And in a lot of movies you would kind of expect like her to just kind of like one up him and stuff. But they play it kind of decently, or like she like hits him and like really messes her hand up, and she's like, "That like totally messed my hand up. Like I'm not like trying to hit you again." And then they get attacked by Terracons, who again look totally plain and boring. And again, unfortunately, it's just like one of the more okay. They don't look totally plain and boring, and I'm probably speaking out of my ass because again, just to pull them up for like some reference, like Airazor like looks really badass. She's like a flying pink jet that has like samurai swords and shit like that. Like there's some cool things going on with them. There's like some scorpion people that they have that are attacking them and stuff like that. Like it ain't all bad with the Terracons. I'm just kind of sore that I didn't get Megatron or Dinobot or Waspinator or even Rat Pack, so just really a bummer ultimately there. And again, what we did get with like Cheetor and Rhinox, we got kind of shorted. I think I even have a cool Rhinox picture. Is this right? No. Nope. That's Airazor, and she was cool. We'll get to her in just a second. That's who the statue is of, this character. It's in the hawk form that she breaks and creates the beacon. And that's kind of a funny thing too about Elena. Like she's painted as like the like I'm smarter than everybody character, and of course she ends up setting off the beacon that attracts like the horrible thing to Earth that everybody's been trying to avoid this whole time. So, hey, everybody has a bad day every once in a while, no matter how smart and, literally, incredible they are at just about everything that they're doing. And, hey, that goes for Noah as well. Honestly, there's really not too much adversity faced by anybody in this movie. They just kind of managed to get themselves along despite all the crap going on. So yeah, they steal the device, and this image gets me back to literally what I was just talking about that led us down again ramblings here. We're just gonna kind of roll along. We're chugging them down, we're putting them down amongst other things. So hey, cheers to that, my friends, and I just keep going with it. But if this movie had been done with the animation of old Beast Wars and then like really cheesy prosthetics. So in this scene, you have like a security guard run in. They're like she just hit him. He's been hit by her. She's like, "Oh, my hand." He's like, "Oh, my face." And the security guard's like, "Ah, freeze, both of you." And again, you're gonna watch this movie. You're gonna be like, "Whoa, yeah, okay, bad." So he's like, "Stop." And Terracon blows up the spot that he's in, and I like, I try not to do this much in movies, really, but I couldn't. I like leaned over to my bed. I was like imagine if like his legs were still there, just these two legs where he'd been blown up, and then like these like computer generated Terracons that looked like the Decepticons came in. I mean, oh man, that'd be absolutely beautiful. And like that's another thing someone would have to like literally inform me on, because like I started watching it thinking like, okay, it takes place in the 90s because they're like putting it before the first Transformers movies, but nothing about this movie felt like it needed to take place in the previous Transformers universe. So like sometimes you're respectful to what came before you, but when it comes to the new Transformers, I feel like generally most Transformers fans would be like, "Oh yeah, I don't care. Like do whatever you want with that." I mean, is that not? I mean, there's always going to be fans of every franchise, and to that I say congratulations. That's a fantastic thing. Speaking of great puns, I'll get to that in just a second. Uh, but I don't think anyone would have minded if you just kind of put it in like a different reality. Is it just because the Bumblebee reality exists in the same place, and so they feel like they have to keep both of those together? Ultimately, I guess so. Like it's once you kind of dug yourself in, why break a good thing? What when it ain't worth fixing? So you end up having that guy blown up. His legs are there. They're spurting blood. It's horrific. It's really violent. Um, they end up starting to escape when the Terracons steal the device and get away with it. They think they're so clever. They bring it back to Omnicron. They're like, hey, we got it. We got the big thing. You can come to this Earth and eat it. It's half the device. He's so pissed. And he sends them back on the mission. The mission. So they end up going to South America. The Elena, she's like an archaeologist, and she's like, well, the whole one of the reasons I doubted what my colleagues were saying. And this again, this movie's like not this movie's not like redacted. Like it like there's some smart things in it. Like she's like, oh yeah, like the whole reason, and she mentioned this in the first scene. She's like, the whole reason I doubted why like they thought it was like, okay, we'll just say Mesopotamian because that's the oldest civilization I know. Uh, the whole reason they thought it was Mesopotamian is because it has Aztec writing on it. So she's like, well, we need to go to the oldest Aztec temple because I bet you that's where we'll find the second half of this device. It seems like that's where they're telling us it was hidden. So they end up heading over there. Again, there's like this hilarious scene where like they're in like Rio, like it looks like they're in Rio de Janeiro, but like I know that's gonna sound really they're in Peru. Right? I think they're in Peru. But anyway, they're in a place with really closed streets and everything. And I actually have an image of the one character. Oh no, not ready for him yet. Oh yeah, here's our bad guy too. So like how I mean you gotta respect Transformers. How aughts 2000s is this to have a bad guy that is a circle mouth monster trying to eat a planet? Oh man, think Gods of Egypt. Think well, that's a little later than the late aughts, like teens. Fantastic Four, number two. The the OG ones. And I think we had some other movies where there was mouths trying to eat planets, but I might have to look into that just a little bit more. There's a Godzilla movie that's kind of like that with King Ghidorah on Netflix actually. So hey, definitely worth checking out if you have not seen that. So yeah, man, they end up heading to South America again. Optimus Prime, like all I'll say is he comes off as prejudice in this movie, and there's no way on YouTube to trick the out. Like, trust me, I've looked into it. I've done a lot of research. There's no way you can trick the algorithm into thinking you're talking about something else that's horrible and hateful, even though you're not espousing those beliefs. You're talking about how they're expressed in a movie through a fictional CGI robot character. But watch it for yourself. Optimus Prime, in my opinion, comes off as very, we'll say, prejudice in this movie. There's a lot of comments from Optimus Prime that really make you go, is this really consistent with the Optimus I've seen? And again, I saw two of the Transformers movies that have come out before this one. So maybe throughout the story, there was more development or backstory given, but he never seemed like that in the previous movies. That was very confusing for me personally. But smoke him if you got him, contemplate it, think about it, and really consider the way that he's presented in this thing, and if you want to be associated with a lot of that. Okay, so I mean, all that awfulness aside, we this is important. Before we went to Peru, Bumblebee got killed. So that's like one of those really, like, again, like, bad but so bad it's kind of good, like moments where, like, he gets killed by the main bad guy, Spark. I know it's not Spark, Scourge, and you know, Scourge kills him, and very sad. But you're like, go fuck yourself. Bumblebee is alive in all of these other movies. He's not dead, you know. And they even say like, oh, maybe we'll be able to revive him. Well, of course you'll be able to revive him, but so yeah, that's worth mentioning though. Bumblebee is dead. Very sad, except for the fact that we know Bumblebee is not dead in the future. So that is a strange choice there. I would say again, he had a kind of a bigger arc. There's more stuff that we'll get into with all of him, but could have even been a good place to kill off Pete Davidson's character. I don't think he would have minded as long as you paid him the same amount of money. That's all they tend to care about. So they've gone on a trip to Peru. The little Diaz brother has a walkie-talkie where he is going to be keeping in contact with his older brother, and along with Mirage, to make sure that he is staying safe. Oh, Scourge. Here's Scourge, everybody. So Scourge is just very classic Decepticon. I don't know if Scourge is kind of supposed to be like the idea of Decepticons or something like that, like the prototype. But either way, very Ultron-y. That's kind of a compliment. I like Ultron. I always felt like Ultron was like a good, like a decent enough written character that had good voice acting, that if the animation and like the overall story, like could have served that more. Well, I guess what I mainly mean is if it could have been a little more, just like this movie, violent. This movie would have benefited from an R rating. I know it's crazy to say, but just imagine that Transformers movie that's got the really hard R rating, cursing, blood, violence, robots stepping on people, and like like that. That's going to be a lot of fun. You're going to sell a lot. You sold a lot of tickets this one, at least on the opening day. This movie probably will have a big drop off, but this movie will have a big weekend. What's it up against? Because everyone saw across the Spider-Verse, especially if you love Miles, you love Spider-Man, you want to see that movie, you saw it. So, like, yeah, I mean, if you're a normie or you just like going to the movies or you're a hardcore into this Transformers thing, you probably are going to go see it. I do. I think it'll do really well. Let's make a guess. Let's say Transformers Rise of the Beast makes. Ooh. Hmm. And I mean, I don't know if it's like successful necessarily or not to say this, but I think that they will make $75 million first weekend. Or yeah, 35 million. And that might be really bad for them or whatever. Like, I don't know, but that seems all right to me anyway. It didn't seem like they spent a lot of money on this movie, so like how many people are really going to be very sad about it if it's underperforming? All right, so they met the air raider hawk lady. She flew to them with the beacon and everything. She helps out with the fight. That's another thing that happened in Peru. They meet the hawk, they meet the eagle, this character. And okay, coolest thing about this character that's worth noting, there were a few like design things I liked in this movie. When the hawk talked, its like beak opened in a way where it like looked like it was actually like opening and closing, and that was like cooler than it just being like like scuttle wrapping, So I was happy to see this bird not just scuttle wrapping. Here is it says nightbird. Excuse me. And I assume they have to change these things, for perpetuity and all that kind of stuff. But there you go. Air Razor. That's pretty much what that character was looking like. So, take that as you will. And let's see here. Oh man, you have a big old thread line in this thing of Pete Davidson, and he's bonding, of course, bonding with the main character Noah, and in the end, when he gets all shot up by the main bad guy Scourge, they bond as Megatron, uh, Mega Man. It'd be cool if that was the origin of Megatron. They're like, he started as Mega Man, but then he became a jet. That would be the natural progression. And I guess, I guess that is that what they were trying to tell me with this? That he's kind of Mega Man or some shit like that? Like, that was kind of interesting. I'll be honest, I did not even think about that. Again, I will not even fucking front there. I don't know shit about Mega Man, so I'm not even gonna pretend that kind of shit. But hey, man, there he is. There's Mega Man in the movie. Before you get all that though, they go to the Peru. They solve okay, again, like this movie, like dumb stuff, but like cool stuff is like they go to this ancient temple and they just start like turning stones like on the ground, and it's like, oh wow, like nobody fucking ever turned a stone here, or multiple stones and got this like ground thing to open up. It's just like absolutely batty, man. They find an underground temple, and discover that the MacGuffin they're looking for there is already missing, and that's when they meet up with the other Beast people because they took it, and they're like, "Yeah, we took it." Okay, there you go. Here, you have the big confrontation. You end up going over there. They're like, "Oh, we have it. Come with us, and we'll deal with it." The guy over there in the far left, where is he on this whole list of build actors? Oh, nice. Cristo Fernandez, Wheeljack, man. was a really big hit, honestly. Wheeljack is definitely a fan favorite. I saw a lot of people really into Wheeljack. People were cheering about Wheeljack. People were fucking digging Wheeljack. And I think people just, generally speaking, are going to want to see a lot more Wheeljack when we get down the road. So Wheeljack's from Peru. You got him joining the team with all this other shenanigans that's going on. The second MacGuffin that they're seeking out, and of course, the Maximals have that second MacGuffin. Of course, they have that second MacGuffin. They've got to be taking care of business there. So I don't know what the fuck I'm saying. Let me regroup here another second. Let me get a sip. It's hot in the room I'm in. And there's a lot of smoke in the East Coast. Besides just this room, so the thing about where they find or don't find the second MacGuffin, and again, big criticism here for Elena. I'm so sorry. Like, where was this face, when she goes to the secret temple, underground area that is undiscovered, fully undiscovered, and she has no reaction. She's just like, okay, like just like this kid's face, like. And what's funny is he's looking at like a natural phenomenon too, so not great acting on both parts. But he's like, okay, and so she goes to this temple. She goes to this underground city. I'm calling it a temple. I'm underselling it to you. She goes to an underground city, and she's just kind of like, okay, sure. And at the end of the movie, they're going to circle back to that and be like, oh, she discovered this underground city. Here's the book she wrote and all this great stuff. Which is good. She gets her recognition. But you're like, she didn't look like she cared at all in that scene when she first arrives there. And I know it's all CGI. She just walked into a big green room, but whew, you gotta try. You gotta try a little bit harder than that. So once they meet up with these Maximals, they get attacked again, of course, by the Terracons, and unfortunately, poor air raid here, air raid gets hit with a tracking device. Oh, on that note, let's hear it for the girls. Lisa Koshy as Arcee was really, really fun in this movie, man. Arcee's a pretty cool character. So they had this big fun chase scene in Peru. Of course, they're like going through the streets, like all this kind of stuff. They narrowly escaping, blowing things up, getting all out. Optimus Prime kind of like almost meets his end. One thing my friend said to me after the movie that I thought was very true was like, Optimus Prime is very cocky in this movie, despite the fact that he's constantly getting his ass kicked. Like, and I mean, I know he's like a war vet from before, but like, you would have thought after maybe the second time, you'd be like a little cautious on the third one and then come out victorious. But now, just like just fucking so full of himself and ready to go at all times. So full of himself that he scares Optimus Primal into being a real man at all. He just ends up betaing out to Optimus Prime here the whole time. It's I'll be honest, if I was that Optimus Primal, I'd be pretty embarrassed to call myself a Primal in any way, shape, or form. I would turn that card in. So this secret village has been holding on to the second half of the teleporter for them. And while they're there, the Hawk freaks out. She's obviously got a tracking device on her. Again, like glad this movie doesn't explain too much, but like, why the hell are they advanced robots that can't tell if they have a fucking tracking device or like some crazy shit shot onto them? Even if you're a person and someone shot like a big like dart into your back and was like, I'm gonna track you, you'd be like, oh fuck, there's a dart in my back. Like, let me get this checked out. This is crazy. So they find them through that. They end up like turning air raid. I just like calling the Hawk character Air Raid at this point. I think that's such a better name. They end up taking Air Raid over, and of course Optimus Maximal ends up having to stop Air Raid by. And I think this is fair to say, and it's not like I'm this kind of guy, but it's fair to say for anyone who's out there listening, trigger warning on the V word. So Optimus Primal chokes out the gorilla, chokes out the Hawk, and stops the Hawk from attacking or killing Elena, who will be needed for the final act. So obviously very heartbreaking. They are not able to protect the second part of the device, so the Terracons end up calling their bad guy. They start setting up that whole station that's gonna like get him to go, and they realize that Noah and Elena can try to sneak into the vents in order to get this, portal ending world device back. I'm not even gonna pretend to know what it is. And that's when all the shenanigans and things go wrong through all the fighting and stuff. Mirage loans himself to this guy, and he ends up becoming Mega Man. But one thing I thought would have been hilarious was like, because he's Mirage, he's like, yeah, take my armor and stuff, and he just wanted him to feel good before he just gets like shot up by the main bad guy. He's got like plasma guns and stuff like that. He's like super small, and that's the final thing too. Like worth talking about with this movie. We're almost at an hour. I'm definitely not going to talk about it. There's no one watching this live, so we can wrap up the ramble here all on our own. But the thing that is really worth mentioning about this movie is it just wraps up in this way where like, okay, like, you get the all spark, you go ahead, you take it apart. they end up they end up defeating the bad guys. They end up getting them aside. And then you have Pete Davidson getting shot up, and this guy turning into Mega Man. And the way that they defeat the bad guy is the three of them, Optimus Primal, and Mega Man, take them on together. And you're just kind of like, did no one ever think to take them on more than like 3-on-1? Like they're told like at one point, like he's nearly invincible from the dark energy. But just try taking them on, more than one guy at a time, because he just looks like a regular robot guy. So if the rest of you just kind of, buckled down and got after it, I think you might be able to actually get this thing done. But, far be it from me. I've not made a litany of Transformers movies that are ridiculously successful. And, hey, at the end of the day, they end up killing the bad guys. They end up expelling the main threat from the earth. And, of course, Optimus and them. Oh, so that's worth mentioning finally here. Optimus and the Maximals main conflict in the beginning is that he wants to use this teleporter thing to get back to his home planet because he's stranded on Earth. The Maximals are happy to be on Earth because they're like glad protecting it. And you're definitely supposed to get some kind of message of like, oh, Optimus learned something from them, and that's why one of the many reasons why he stays on Earth to protect it and all that kind of stuff. And it's like, nah, just like move on to the end and get this shit fully out of the way. So yeah, man, like it's It's pretty bad, but it's enjoyable. And if you're just down to have a good time and like watch robots clash around, like even that's not very satisfying. It'll just be really real because they put it in the dark. They put a lot of foreground around the robots, as in like they're kind of in the background, but they're not taking up that much space, so you don't get that much detail on them. And that's not the worst thing in the world, but it does feel pretty cheap. And ultimately you end up just kind of having this whole like thing where at the end of the day, uh it just feels like mismatched. It's like there's some tight things. I liked how the two main characters had decent storylines. You're the brother kind of like with his like younger brother compelled to help him out. That's very much just loosely tied back into the story like three or four times so that they can kind of keep it all going. It's not too bad, But you know, the way they tie it into the scientist chick, at first I was like, all right, it's kind of decent. And then the rest of the movie has some like really, really schlocky dialogue. And I know I talked about a lot of the like just mainly like raw plot stuff, but like there's some like just total dog shit lines. Like there's this whole line about like the chick Elena, like she's been with like Optimus Prime for like a day and Noah for like 2 days. And she's like, when 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 I look at Optimus Prime, I see a big brother just like you who's just trying to do the right thing. I'm like, you don't like that's like okay. The first thing I thought was what the fuck? How's that writer not write in like, when I look at Optimus Prime, I see a big brother. Oh, really? When I look at him, I see an alien robot. Like, ha 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 ha. Oh, you know what I mean? Like, why do you not insert some humor there? Because it's like, how, like, yeah, when you look at him, you just see a big robot. Like, you don't see a big brother. I mean, maybe you do, but fuck, man. Yeah, that one is legitimately a pretty tough sell. And that's what I mean. Is like it's really dumb. Like the really smart scientist person sets off the beacon, and you could definitely argue like, she doesn't know what she's doing. She's not aware that the beacon's getting set off and stuff like that. But it's just like, okay, like what, like, so is she kind of like naive and ignorant, or is she like really knowledgeable and like knows what she's doing? Again, hard to criticize because to that extent, I'm like trying to open this with a lighter, and then I just have this bottle opener right here. To that extent, man, the movie doesn't try too hard. It's actually pretty fair. It's decent to its male character. He's definitely the hero of the story as far as like he gets his big action moment and like all that kind of stuff. And I definitely think they're taking like a little bit of a page out of the John Wick slash Fast and the Furious page, Mission Impossible, Top Gun, where they're like, hey, people want to see a male hero. They, at the very least, alongside a female hero who's going to have his own contribution, succeed in the story, and be able to add something that people can get down with. And this guy did it. Post credit scene, I stuck around at least for the mid credits, and then me and my buddy took off. But you get a GI Joe reference. I have no fucking clue what's going on with that, but that this guy is like getting invited into GI Joe, and again, I think kind of the assumption is like he's Mega Man, so that's why they want to add him. And that's pretty cool. I'm always down with Mega Man working for the United States. Some other things about this movie that were interesting. It's pro gun. There's very, very much several pro gun messages, whether you love that, yeah, or you hate that, boo. Let us know. Either way, I really don't care if you like it or you don't like it. I don't care at all what you think. Not one bit. But let everybody else know, because let them know I support you supporting posting your opinion on here, but I don't care what you think. but I support you putting it on here and letting others know. And that's pretty important to express. That's what we're going for here. So the movie's pro gun. Of course, the movie is pro transforming. However, you want to take that, the movie has a lot of transforming happening, including at the end of the movie. I was very surprised to see some transformations from characters that seem quite fixed. Uh, the Maximals, the animals, transform at the end, and you're like, what? Because they get in a lot of fights in the movie, and they never once turn into like their like robot forms. It's the kind of detail where you think like they maybe had a scene that explained this in the plot, and they just got rid of it, or they just said fuck it, man. And at the end of the sequence, they were like, man, we need some more beasts turning into robots and doing some crazy ass thing. And so yeah, man, Rise of the Beasts is fun. It's schlocky. It's worth seeing in theaters. The volume might be turned up like really loud in your movie theater, and especially if you like these Transformers movies. In my opinion, it was the second best Transformers movie I've ever seen. I'd have to go back and watch the first one, but like I feel like that one was decent enough. Michael Bay, Megan Fox, at the time, lots of things that were very enjoyable about that movie. But this one was still a lot of fun, and it's like it's fun, and it's got some things that make sense, and it's got a story that ties itself together well enough, and some characters. But it's also like totally like what the hell's going on in this scene or that scene. Like, okay, another great example is these little henchman robots for the bad guys, obviously, that go after the humans, and you have no fucking clue what their power level is. They're like at one moment they're breaking through dinosaur skeletons and like rocks and stuff, trying to get to the people, and then the next they take one of those little like hollow metal standing poles that holds up the rope for the line, the queue line, and they smack the robot in the face with that, and they knock it, incapacitate him. It's like, what the fuck is this thing made of? It's crashing through dinosaur bones, but it can't take being smacked by an empty aluminum painted gold pole. This is literally absolutely ridiculous. So yeah, man. Uh, a lot of things like that. And that's where this movie really can be fun as just a bad movie to go and watch. It's not overtly offensive. It's not bad in the ways where you watch it and you're like, oh God, I just can't watch this scene, or you roll your eyes every time you hear that see that line or that monologue. No. If anything, it's just bad in the way of like, is this supposed to be smart by being this satire, or is this supposed to be dumb by being this satire? And I'm actually enjoying myself. That kind of stuff I really respect. I mean, it's not every day that you come across something that really evokes so much dichotomy in your feelings. One moment you're like, whoa, Rise of the Beast is kind of smart. It's putting it together. It's relatively tight. The next moment you're like, man, this is a fraudulent version of Beast Wars that's just using the characters to try and skate on by and capitalize on the Transformers plot. To the Transformers franchise. And that's the thing, man. Ultimately, you got a lot of these projects that leech the main idea, but this one's not too bad. I think if it makes enough money, they might actually funnel, some bills into a proper Beast Wars type project. So let's hope for that. And maybe if we're really, really good, then we'll be able to see some stuff that we like. And if we're really, really bad, then they'll punish us. Trust me, you can't get it past their algorithm either. So I recommend Beast Wars, Rise of the Beast. Go see it with a friend. Have a good laugh. laugh at the things that other people like gasp or comment at, because there's some like big time moments. You never want to be the obnoxious like moviegoer, but like it's fine to on the other side of the movie theater hear someone go like, "Oh my god," at something you just don't care about, and to just kind of quietly like, "Oh my god," and not in that fake, dumb, and natural way, but if it really makes you laugh, just lightly laugh it to yourself. That's fine. They don't know what you're laughing at. Maybe you're just getting a kick out of the line that just got them emotional, and that's the beautiful thing about recycling. We should all do it more. Uh, Check Optimus Prime. Don't let him behave in this way. Let's go through his Twitter. Let's see what he's saying. Let's really get an idea after this movie. A lot of things are a lot more clear. But anyway, I'm Blunt. I appreciate you for coming out, listening to this for any amount of time. If you made it this fucking far, you're a trooper. I don't even know why you would do that to yourself, because these are just drunken ramblings. Not that I don't love you. Love yourself and keep yourself safe. Good night.